welcome to Jennifer Senior, Rob Delaney, and Sharon Horgan.
Hey. Hi. Oh, wow.
That's nice. Thank you.
I
think this event sold out in like a second or two. It took
Wow.
almost a time. Oh, yes, that sounds good. Great. So thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. You just flew in like 2 seconds ago.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
So we were sitting backstage, and it was running back on a teeny screen back there. And they were saying, we can't hear the audience. We don't know if they're laughing. And I thought, is there any doubt? And then I thought, like, do you still get anxious about that?
Oh, yeah.
That's amazing
I'm
to me.
Sweating so heavily right now.
I mean, I was sort of stunned that this was even a question to you guys.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Rob
worse
had
than
to go have a
that because we
sneaky
were like,
listen.
I had to stick my ear to the door.
He did.
But
He was
then
like,
went
his
back to
nose
the
was out.
TV and watched the show ourselves, which we watched 300 times in the edit. And we're like,
Don't say that.
oh, I did
Be
not. It was
cool.
only I did that. She did. Ice cold.
We were laughing about the bits that make us laugh that we just assume, actually, we've noticed don't make other people laugh.
Oh, we think the funniest thing in the whole episode is when the old lady is like, and there's the socks and a Fanta. And people are like, get back to Sharon and Rob. And we're like, no, but she's listing the contents.
Oh, this Burger King bag. That's the funniest.
It's true. They actually were sort of unraveling over that. And I'm like, really? Yeah. No, it was great. It was. I just was moved by the idea that you were still anxious after all this time. But
Yeah. Also,
Deep.
you
The
know, it's
sickness
gonna.
is deep.
Yeah.
I know.
That, I mean, the sickness, of course, but also we, went out in the UK, but and it did very nicely.
Are we a rougher crowd?
The UK
We
didn't know
audience,
American people would like it.
Yes, people, they kind of
Are we a rougher crowd or just a different crowd?
just different.
Different, because over there comes out one episode at a time, and here it comes out
As a
at a binge. And I think this season to me feels more suited to a binge, so we really want it to go down well.
Right.
So hope you like
Binge
it.
Right. Okay. So before we jump in and do this in some kind of rational, kind of chronological order, I just wanted to ask a few things about that. Okay, so the first scene after the opening, which is delightful, you've got Chris sitting there at the cafe with you. So Chris is the kind of character who I feel like the audience starts laughing before he even opens his mouth, because he's so right. So, and my fantasy is that he's the most fun to write, but it might just be that he's the most surprising and unpredictable and kind of
I think
funny to watch. But
It's very funny to write.
He is,
It's really
yeah.
fun to write.
People will ask, they'll be like, so do you, Rob, write Rob, and Sharon writes Sharon, and then you split up the others? And that's not it at all. Like, I write for you, you write for me, and then we totally, even though there's the characters Sharon and Rob, we consider ourselves also all the other characters. So,
Right.
so we get just as excited and are absolutely as invested in all the other characters. And
But when after the first episode, because we didn't really know the character of Chris properly until we got the series, but when we made the pilot, Rob wrote, I mean, it was pretty much straight out of your gob, I think, the speech where he's describing what it looks like watching his wife give birth. Where he describes watching a troll come tobogganing out of your wife's snatch on a wave of turds. And like, from that minute on, it was like, oh no, I think we know Chris.
Yeah.
I think we have his voice.
Can you do that voice too? I mean, you just did it beautifully, but you were channeling him, channeling Chris. I mean, are you now capable of doing Chris as well as Rob?
We do all each
Yeah.
You do them all. You really.
Yeah.
There's nobody ever who, or like Carrie Fisher's character. Oh, go on, please.
No,
oh,
it's
she's
just,
the only one, because other actors will be like, hey, I was thinking maybe for this scene I could, and we're like, stop right there. And whereas with Carrie Fisher, you can't do that. She just does what she wants to do.
Did she write her own stuff?
Absolutely.
She ad-libbed.
Not that she
stuck
wrote it,
in.
but she wouldn't do what we wrote. And
Yeah.
that was good.
Yeah.
So she's the only one who you let go.
Yeah.
rogue.
Correct.
Yeah.
Was it exhilarating or was it kind of like?
I mean, like.
It was but everything.
Sorry, that was inappropriate for.
For so many
Beautiful. It was so good.
No, it was great fun to watch. I mean, it's great fun watching her enjoying herself on our set. Like that was the best.
She does look like she's having a ball, but they all do. So I can't tell.
Yeah.
She
Our
doesn't look any
theory,
happier
let's
than the
tell,
others.
rather than do a Q&A, is tell you
Go
that
ahead.
with Carrie Fisher, like honestly, we believe firmly, this isn't a joke, that she agreed to do the show just because it's shot in London. We don't think she watched the pilot or read the script. Genuinely, she has a lot of friends in London. She likes to spend time there. So
She really does.
So we believe that she came and was,
Yeah.
and then did the first season and was like, not bad, and then came back and did the second one. And by the third one, she was like, so we could do this and we could do that. Like
Yeah.
she like learned what the show was well after it had already aired.
Does that mean that she was on script for the first season and then freestyling on the second and third, or not even?
No,
Freestyled out of the gate.
She freestyled, yeah, very much so out of the
gate.
gate. Yeah.
Crazy. Okay. So then my fantasy is not right. It's not. Chris is no more fun to write than anybody else. No.
Do you know what? They're all fun to write.
Okay.
All the
I was just
characters.
curious.
I mean, my
Fergal.
brother
Fergal.
Fergal is great crack to write. I mean, you kind of get to a point with those characters where they don't even really have to say jokes anymore. You just
Yeah, yeah.
write down, you hear it in their voice, and you know it's going to work.
Did any? And the actors must have helped inform who the characters were. Like the guy who plays Chris. Sorry, I keep going back
His
to
name, you're
yeah.
in love with him.
I'm tired.
We all are actually. We all are.
The accent too.
That's
Yeah.
Mark Bonnar. He came in. He auditioned for it. Ashley Jensen, who plays his wife Fran, she was offered the part, right? And she just turned up and did her thing. But Mark came in and read for it. And yeah, as soon as we didn't mean them to both be Scottish. I mean, that was.
Oh,
kind
we
of-
never would have done that on purpose.
It's so pretty to listen to.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Okay, I was just curious. So, God, I have so many other things about this, but maybe, you know what, let's rewind. So I was talking about this with you backstage a little bit. They've answered this question a lot. But I don't know how many people here know it. So I was intrigued to read that you met on Twitter. And then I saw that in every interview, you very graciously endure the exact same tiresome joke, which is, wow, Twitter produced one good thing, and that was you guys meeting online, and how great. But I think, when I'm trying to imagine it, I don't know what the content, I mean, did you DM each other? Did you
Yeah.
quietly, oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
So what was the content there? Can you just say, like, I love your work, do you want to get to, how did that?
I think I wrote the first one. I was like, I can't believe you follow me on this fucking thing. I'm crazy about your show Pulling. I mean, you had made this amazing sitcom Pulling, which if you guys haven't seen Pulling, you have to go leave this now and go watch it. And I was just amazed. And so I think I effusively told you how great that was.
Yeah, and everyone in UK comedy had started following Rob then, and everyone was sort of buzzing about how funny he was. So that's why I was following him, and also your picture with the green
Oh,
trunks.
yeah.
It was just such an amazing picture. I was just like, what kind of man is he? And
And the filthy between his feet.
and then I started watching his
delectable.
stand-up and all that.
Yeah, it
And
was
then,
great.
yeah, we sort of back and forth a bit on Twitter and then met in real life. But it was still an age before the Catastrophe thing happened.
Okay, so this other fantasy I have is that you guys met and that because the show it's beautifully written, but the other thing, I feel like it coasts along on the miracle of your chemistry. And I just kept thinking, so when you met, was it instantaneous? Were you, there's something just divinely screwball about you both. And I just wondered, like, did that happen the second you met where you were just clattering along in binary code and it was all like, great, no.
No, I mean,
You weren't
like I
finishing
just
each
knew
other's
I
sentences.
liked Sharon and what she'd made, and I suppose I hoped, I suspected that our senses of humor might mesh well, and so we were, but it was a couple years before we decided to write a pilot together.
There was no anything. I mean, we of course liked each other, but we're both weird and a bit awkward. So the first meeting was weird and awkward.
Is that right?
Yeah, it was a bit weird. Yeah.
What does that mean? Were there was it like a long distance phone call
hugs
where
that
there's like
got given weird.
Yeah.
I just thought you'd immediately.
No, I mean we did because we stayed in touch always. So we always got along and always liked each other. But
When we finally started to write, though, we were both like showed up in our first day of school clothes, and we're like clickety clack. I hope, hope this works. You know?
Even that was awkward to begin with,
Yeah.
right? But it didn't take long. Once we started writing together, it didn't take long to sort of.
What was
you know,
awkward? What did you have to
You
sort
know what?
out?
Remember?
It's embarrassing trying to be funny in front of someone, especially when you're putting it down on a page. It's different if you're just like, yakking away to each other. But
You do that so naturally as characters. You're trying to crack each other up, and it works so beautifully. So it's very hard to imagine
it's
going back
tricky.
to a moment when you guys were awkward and weird with one another. It's
Well, you know what
definitely-
I just remembered we did for like the first year and a half that we wrote together is to be like, I'm going to tell you something right now. Don't want you to hate me about like something that we had done and was horrible that we thought would be good story fodder. And then after a while, we were like, well, I already know you hate me, so listen to this. You know?
Okay, so the process of, I mean, it's kind of delightful to imagine the two of you writing together, and I read that you commandeer the keyboard, right? That's your, and you're comfortable talking without writing, is that right?
So we traded back and forth for the first few, it was maybe we were a quarter or halfway through writing the first season.
oh yeah, we're even further than that.
And so we would trade back and forth who was the scribe. And then one day you were like walking around, bumping into walls and sweating. And then you were like, I need to write, I can't think because my fingers aren't moving. And I was like, all right. And I thought, I was scared because I thought, well, she's not going to write any of the things that I say. And then you would. And so then I achieved peace with the arrangement.
Yeah, it's fine. It works. It was just this weird thing in my brain where I kind of felt like if we didn't do it this way, then it wasn't going to work.
And why couldn't you have your own keyboard? Why can't you both be doing it?
Because I guess we sort of tried to, blend our minds and make sure that only one thing was being written down, I guess.
One document. No, I got it.
Yeah.
I got
mean,
it.
sometimes we write separately and send back and forth, but usually we're in the same room and one person is typing, and it's not me.
Are you walking and talking? I mean, how are you? Are you literally embodying it? Are you channeling as you're doing?
Yeah, I
I just
mean,
want to. Yeah.
to begin with, it was just the two of us. There was no writer's assistant. So, like some stuff, if we're going too quickly, we sort of scribble it down as we go and then sort of transcribe it. But a lot of the times it would just go straight into the laptop. And then, you miss bits and pieces as you go. And then for the third season, we got a writer's assistant, and it was like, amazing. Because someone's writing down what we both say, and then we're like, read it back, Samantha. Her name's Chrissy. But yeah, it did sort of free us up a little bit.
Although, doesn't that handicap you if you have an attachment?
I'm still doing that. I'm literally taking down everything at the same time, just in case.
Awesome. That's great. All right, so I did something, that's probably sort of unorthodox, but I was curious about. The pacing is also really captivating, right? Everything's happening so quickly. The velocity of the jokes is just kind of astonishing. And I first of all, so I actually, just out of curiosity, I timed it, and for about 10 minutes on one of the episodes, it was a semi-serious episode. It wasn't even one of the, super high, I mean, it was kind of both. And there were probably 5 great jokes that stuck every minute. It was a lot.
Thank you.
And I thought, that is so much. And I thought, first of all, is this a thing? Does anybody ever the pacing? I mean, has anybody done this with Matt Groening or Armando Iannucci? I mean, do they look and see how many?
I reckon they do.
They do.
We get panicky if there's more than a couple of lines about a joke.
Really, I mean, especially in the age of like the dramedy and the comedy drama and stuff, terms that make us both vomit. We want, even though yes, serious stuff happens in our show, we really want it to be like conform to the classic sitcom structure.
Yeah.
So we work really hard to have the joke per page ratio quite high, even though it's 2019 and your shows should have swear words and yelling and somebody should cry and all that bullshit. Which we enjoy doing, but we feel like it can also still be funny.
Right. We had a scene in season 3 where Rob turns up in Ireland, and I've just found out that my dad has passed away. And I open the door, and I'm crying, and I'm like, he died. And Rob says, Virgil? So we're like, even then, we couldn't stop ourselves from putting something stupid in.
It's true. I hadn't even thought about that. But yes, I'm glad you brought that up, because it does feel like there's this kind of algorithm that, I mean, what's so wonderful is that it does, you can't see it. You can't see that you're actually working that hard to do it. But it's all.
Thanks.
But
I mean,
you must be ruthless with your editing.
We are, and then we also we read everything out loud hundreds of times so that things don't sound too written. Like our ultimate feel, like our first drafts, if you read them aloud, you'd be like, ugh, this is like the worst old play or something. And so we really try to make it sound like human speech, so it's critical. Usually our first drafts are like transcriptions of things we've said, then we go crazy over them, and then we read them out loud a million times, and we just sand off the crap.
So that they sound authentically.
Yeah, like something somebody would say.
Which is interesting because, of course, I'm thinking Aaron Sorkin's was very stylized, very written. It seemed to work, but it's true that you could kind of, if you looked at it on the page, anybody could have said any one of the, you couldn't tell the difference necessarily. But you can't comment on any of that. I'm just forget how you said that.
I just censored myself like 8 times.
Yeah.
I'm inviting you to run down Aaron Sorkin, which is like a completely stupid thing to do. Anyway, and I like his stuff very much, as I'm sure you do. But
yes.
Right.
What, Moneyball? Fucking amazing.
It was.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Oh my God, yeah.
Totally amazing. Right.
Baseball math? Who wants to? I don't want to watch that, except I do.
Except you do. Aaron Sorkin just did it. Anyway, thank you for getting me out of that cul-de-sac. That was so gracious of you. I will remember that forever. Anyway, all right. So, and yes, I'm thinking about now the authenticity of your show. You were talking about making the dialogue sound like real speech, and I'm thinking about like. Yes, also how authentically like a marriage it seems, and everybody tells you this, I know. And I'm now wondering, when people come up to you and they gush, or when they write to you, or whatever they do, I approach you on Twitter, what are the different things that they isolate? Is it the characters, or are there particular, I can sit here and name the scenes and the different moments in the show that I'd love to know the backstories on, like, were you collecting string on that? I have all sorts of questions, but I'm wondering if there's any kind of highlight reel that your fans...
Gosh, I mean, it sort of changes person to person, but it's usually actually them dealing with something that's kind of tough, I suppose. And when we write, like, I would say every episode that goes out, we're a little bit scared, because we sort of write about how we would deal with a problem or an issue, or, but we never know whether that's because we're monsters. So, right, I mean, a lot of the time
some people
we're
in the
anxious.
UK, in one of the episodes coming up in this season, people were like, Rob! And I was like, oh, that thing that I would 100% do in real life. Like, a lot of that stuff, I'm like, no, don't do that. But this one, I was like, yep, this is how I am. And people were like, what a monster.
You can't tell us.
I will go into no detail at all.
Well, like, for example, one of the mums at my kids' school came up to me after the episode went out about not when my dad passed, but how I sort of dealt with it, which was in another episode, which was I couldn't feel
crying.
grief. I was upset that the last memory I had of him was a bad one. And, and it was just too easy to me. And she came up to me because she had recently lost her parent and had a similar kind of feeling. So it's any of those moments that kind of make people feel like they're not, bad people, or, shit wives, or, bad parents, or any of those things that just sort of make them feel like, they're normal.
You drain a lot of taboos out of the taboo. I mean, it's really lovely. It's one of the things I like. I think the moments when you talk about maternal kind of loneliness and take the stigma out of that, I'm wondering if were people, that one operatic dress down that you did of her friend who dumped her because you were too clingy.
Yeah.
That was like some kind of transcript of my inner screen. Yeah. It was a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I just, again, where'd that come from? Like, I want to know about that. I wanted the moment with the Down syndrome girl, the beautiful girl.
I mean,
where it's kind of chastening. But I mean, do people come up to you about these specific ones, or am I
the
only human being?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, especially the Down syndrome girl moment. And that moment with the mum who won't be my friend. I mean, that sort of loneliness
beautiful.
of the new mother is a big thing. But I don't know where. It just came from life, really. That sort of feeling of feeling lonely in the playground and needing friends as much as a kid does when they start school, and just trying to bottle that.
Dr. Spock actually talked about this, and no one remembers this. He did. No, he seriously did. Yeah, writing for post-war moms in the 1950s that the maternal-child relationship isn't supposed to be that exclusive. You know that it's
Leonard Nimoy?
No, that would be yes, Mr. Spock. Yes.
All right.
But Benjamin Spock. But yeah, but yeah, that would be awesome. Right? No.
Sideline.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Ministering to lonely mothers. But no, I love that you do that. I think all of that stuff is just so wonderful. The other thing, I was reading about your scripts, I guess this was in Paste magazine. They talked about, so you do a once-over and make sure that your edges are slightly sanded down, and you get a little meaner. Is that right? Something
yeah,
like that?
we didn't have to do that too much maybe in the second half of the show's existence, but in the beginning, we were like, let's, we need to let them bleed into each other a little more, which honestly, although we did sort of, try to help that along, I think probably that would have happened in their relationship anyway, had it been a real one,
oh, right,
not a TV one.
Oh, yeah. God, that's true.
So I think, but they begin to affect each other as any relationship would.
Can I ask, I know this is a strange thing, but you don't seem like a plausible jerk to me, like at all. I mean, I kind of feel like you're, from Venus. You're just very lovely, and there's something very sunny about it.
Very kind of you.
And but I'm going somewhere with it. Well, go ahead, yeah.
I mean, I've been pretending to be someone else for a long time now, and other people, No.
Can I tell you what made me think of that?
Okay.
I was thinking about how unusual it is. I usually think of a comedy working very, very well if someone's a little bit angry. And I'm always amazed when comics are not, they don't seem to be even a little bit angry. I asked Tina Fey this question. I said, do you know any comics who aren't angry? And she sat for a really long time. This was ages ago when she was still the head writer of Saturday Night Live. And she said, Horatio Sands? That was her only answer. She had only one person.
Wow.
That she could. So I'm just, maybe I'm wrong, or,
Yeah, I think you're wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, no, I think you're insightful and you see the face that I show the world and all that. But I'm angry. I have the full complement of emotions, and I do shitty things and small things, and. Yeah.
It was totally worth it to have you say that to me. But wait, was the theory that you have to be a little bit angry to be a good comic wrong too?
No, I mean, it helps. I mean, you have to experience genuine emotion. It doesn't necessarily have to be anger. You have to have passion to be a good comedian because you're going to be talking about stuff just yourself on stage if you're a comedian, and if you're going to make other people care about it, you have to care about it. So you don't necessarily have to be angry. I mean, you can be fascinated or gobsmacked or scared.
Right, fine. I was also, because I was thinking too that maybe this is one of the reasons that female comics have a harder time. Is that their anger show. But fair enough. So I guess another thing I was sort of wondering is, do people make you their confessors now? Do they come up to you and tell you all about their own marriages? And how do you kind of handle that? Because we're not marriage counselors, you're just writers who write very, very well about an actor. You're artists who handle this material well. What do you do with the people who confide?
I mean, I find that they don't.
Okay. They don't come up and propose storylines or tell you about something happened or...
Occasionally, but they're always terrible. Okay. So, there'll always be someone who goes, "Oh, I've got a good one for you. This will go in your funny show," and they never are good stories. So, but I don't know. I mean, I sort of. I think it's slightly more sneaky than that for me anyway. I kind of listen and just keep an ear out for those stories rather than have sort of people
solicitations
approach me.
or unsolicited.
After the fact,
material.
people will be like, "Jesus, do you have cameras in my house?"
Yeah.
And yes, but we don't use, not for our show purposes.
Yeah.
And I guess I mean I know you've talked about mining some of the material from your own life. I'm wondering if there's any stuff that you found more difficult to mine from your own lives, or that you thought it just felt dicier, or you couldn't quite transform it into comedy? Was there stuff that you've discarded, that you've tried?
I don't know
Not
that
like
there's
wholesale, really.
I don't feel like there's been much that we haven't thought we could, use in some
Transform.
way. I mean, I've never written about my girls, but that's because my daughters are of a certain age and they fucking kill me.
It's
but
a
also,
violation. Sure,
we
of
don't
course.
really need them for this show.
Yeah.
But no, generally, I think we'll sort of think it through and then, decide if it's interesting or funny or right, and then it goes in,
Yeah. Is it, if this is too personal a question, is it, can I ask what you each find most stressful about marriage? I can move on.
I mean, I'll tell you what, I think Catastrophe, I'll say for myself, Catastrophe sort of does illustrate, whether people like it or not, it does illustrate sort of my own philosophy about marriage, which is that it is a daily decision to recommit to each other. Yes, hopefully in your marriage there's romance and sexual attraction and stuff and all that, but there's like a roll your sleeves up, blue collar punch in aspect to marriage that's like really important, and like we've each been married we've each been with our respective spouses for like 15 or so years-ish, something like that. That's what you see in that like arc is a regular recommitting, And so I think the characters of Sharon and Rob, make that choice, which is really cool and I think really romantic, So in my own marriage, I mean, difficult would be making that decision even sometimes when I don't want to, or observing my wife be like, Christ, fuck, ugh, and so, but you do it, and then you like bank on goodwill that you've accrued over the years, and then sometimes you have to make a withdrawal from somewhere. I mean, it's. Yeah.
No, I love that. It is. It's an economy of like resentment.
And what I've just described is a good marriage that I enjoy, and I'm serious.
Right. No, right. And with ledgers, I totally get that. And you can pass on the question if you'd like.
I don't know. I mean, it's all really hard. I mean, just the drudgery of day-to-day life is hard. But I don't know. Time is a tricky thing, I think, because people change, and I think that's a really tough thing to stay kind of connected with someone in the same way when time can suddenly
over 15 years. And you started as different, right? I mean, who were you 15 years ago when you were together?
Who was I?
Yeah, I mean, were you an actress then? Were you still trying to do? You were. So Pulling was in 2006.
2006, yeah.
So yeah,
I'm terrible at maths.
Yeah,
that's
13 years ago.
Yeah.
So you were acting and writing by then.
I was acting and writing, but kind of low level. Yeah.
Right. And fame can be an interesting thing to happen in America. Yeah, right. And so now you're in different parenting stages. So I'd love to know what's the most challenging thing about, your stage, and you've got teenagers.
Yeah.
Oh, this might be,
The most difficult thing for me is just having a massive human woman suddenly living with me who's just like a lodger or something, who just sort of stomps around the place just like spreading bad will. But also it's an absolute ball, and I love the teenage years. They're just incredibly challenging. My other girl is 10, so she's still.
Oh, she loves you.
Yeah,
she thinks you're great.
Yeah.
And?
Oh, I was just listening to you. I didn't even think of what I was going to say.
Okay.
My oldest is 7. I can say, I feel like a pretty good father to kids 7 and under, but I, quake with terror at, the coming day. So I always feel like, I've done pretty good so far, but I have no confidence that I'll be a good father to an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old. I can't look into the future, so I just try to do the best I can each day.
Have you had practice on the older ones?
No.
No.
I was that age at one time myself.
No nephews or nieces, or you don't borrow her kids for anything? No. Okay.
I mean, I've met some of them, but I don't.
Has writing about marriage made you better at it?
No.
for
No,
me.
definitely not. I mean, it's a massive bone of contention in my home that my husband will watch Catastrophe and go, right, oh, well, you know, you figured that problem pretty well out on the show. What about our normal lives? So no, I'm much better. Much better
And resolving it on the
show.
page, yeah.
Oh my God, yeah.
When I was a friend of mine taught me how to play chess some years ago. He's a big chess guy, and he was explaining to me. He was just sort of pontificating, and he was like, oh, a lot of guys who play chess, like they'll think they're good at other stuff too because they're good at chess, and look at the brain on me. Mm-hmm. And he's like, being good at chess just means you're just good at chess. It doesn't mean anything beyond that. Right. And so I think, yeah, we might be able to write a funny show, but that doesn't mean we're good spouses.
I was so sure the chess was going to come in at the last minute.
Is it Bishop Hotel?
It was great. I'm trying. Okay, so at the 15-minute mark, and we are right there. I am supposed to say last question. So let me find. Okay, choice of two. Is there a favorite discarded bit from your show that you'd like to describe, or no?
Yes.
Good. Oh,
I was
great.
fucking pissed. I'm sorry that I said that. Can I swear?
Totally.
Okay, so there was a part in episode 5, the one where we're talking about what a slog our jobs are, and I just didn't remember that we took it out during the edit, and I watched it go out live on TV, and I was like, why was that taken out? And
He sent us all an email.
Yeah, it was like, what? So anyway,
Like
it's
he
just
hadn't
funny.
party to us.
Yeah, because there's a part where we're saying, like, you know, we could all be replaced by
Robots.
sex robots,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
or just robots, and then you're like, I'm pretty sure you could just repurpose a sex robot, and I'm like, yeah,
Put a
with
wig
my
on it.
shitty
Yeah.
job, it could, but not you. I mean, you have to like teach kids and help them,
Yeah.
and you're like, no, just put a funny accent on them, and you know, stick the knowledge capsule up the child, and it's gonna be fine, you know. And then you did a robot voice as a robot sex teacher. And that was, it was like, I was screaming.
It was good job, Johnny.
Yeah.
You have, what is it? You have earned 2 units of pride.
Or something like, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, might as well, I mean, that's episode 5.
We
Don't
gotta-
even
we
fucking
gotta-
watch it. Skip episode 5. I'm just kidding, it's amazing. But it could be even better.
I feel so excited that we got to see it.
Oh,
That was
I'll
so
get
good.
it, and I'll make sure it gets up there somewhere.
This, or maybe you can just have this as an addendum or
It's
like
our
a caboose
touring
on it.
show.
I don't know.
We've had to cut huge chunks of the show
yeah.
out as we go along, and it's always really tough to
The
lose
spools on
them.
the floor. I mean, if it's anything like that, I can't even.
Yeah.
You should do the outtakes. Or,
Do you know,
Yeah,
we
we're planning to, but
our sort of yardstick for is this episode good is did we have to cut stuff that we love, you know? So in the beginning, like in series 1, when we had to cut stuff, I'd be like, oh God. And now when we cut stuff that I like, except that one scene, I'm like, well, episode must be all right.
Wow.
So now I enjoy cutting good stuff.
Were there
except for,
more
again,
fat
that
cells
one.
in the beginning? I mean, do you think you learned something? Did you get better at this as you went?
at which?
Were there more fat cells in the beginning? Like where stuff seemed more cuttable in the beginning? And you know, no.
Oh, I don't know. I guess we sort of, at the beginning we just sort of wrote long because that's what we did. And then we realized that the show works as a sort of fast-paced show. And also we only have on Channel 4 24 minutes anyway. So it's just kind of, you have to make it work. And then, I don't know, I mean, we sort of continued to write long, but we got much
couldn't
better
help
at
ourselves.
sort of-
We did
yeah.
get better, but we still just couldn't help
Yeah.
overwriting. Sorry.
No, I mean, we're all the beneficiaries because there's so much there. All right, so I'm going to open this up. I have a couple of questions from Twitter, and I actually read a couple of them backstage to these guys, and they pointed out that one had a spoiler because it came from the UK, so I was really glad that...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Sharon pointed it
Don't
out. Sharon was
spoil
like,
us.
don't do this. So this was it was a gracious kind of preemptive move that she did. So I'll ask this one from Gary Bartle. Ms. Horgan, after knowing each other for years, what's something surprising you learned this season about Rob?
Make it good.
Well, I mean, it continues to surprise me that he continues to be so funny. And sometimes when I'm writing with Rob, I can't believe that entire paragraphs of dialogue come out fully formed, beautiful, kind of, thank God I have the keyboard. But there's a couple of scenes in episode 6. I can't wait for you to see episode 6. I think it's the favorite thing we've ever made, isn't it?
Big time.
So Rob's a brilliant writer and human and actor, and he's so funny. but there's a couple of scenes in episode 6 where it scenes with your dad. Can I say that?
Yeah.
They're just it's so beautiful what he does, and it's so little and small and subtle, but it shouldn't have really surprised me, but it did really surprise me watching it. It was really gorgeous stuff.
We haven't met his dad yet, have we?
No?
Yeah, that's a treat. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. Right, I don't know if somebody wants to go, and if not, I've got other Twitter questions until people... Oh, go for it.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you guys for being here. I have 2 questions. Okay, so first, you were talking about during the writing process how first you start with like things you've said, but then you go back and edit them to make them sound like things people have said.
What is this, a riddle?
I'm curious if it was like literal things you've said or if you meant just ideas and then you trim them down. And then my second question is, in that episode we just watched, did the judge, or the sir, was that purposeful that he kept going,
Yes! Yeah.
I'll answer the second one because I'm never going to remember the first one. Yes.
Yeah.
We just, I don't know.
Yeah, he would like go for water and we'd be like, no.
Yeah. We auditioned a bunch of people for that role, and whoever couldn't do the mouth clacking sound, we were like, nah. It has to be the worst sounding noise you can make.
But
and we loved it, and we laughed all the way through it.
But your first question, not things that we've said in the past, but we sort of transcribe what we've been talking about in the room. That's what we write down. And then through some writerly bullshit, we might flourish it up too much, and then we got to bring it back down to earth.
Yeah.
That second question was wonderful. I love it.
Thanks for noticing.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi. First, I want to say a plug that you've sort of plugged already, but I'll plug it further. For the intermittent, really poignant scenes, too. Like when you're sitting on the toilet reading the letter from your brother about how Dad loved you, because he talked about you all the time. I was like, oh. I'm supposed to be laughing. That was really great. I love the way Chris is such a good friend and won't let Rob escape with his alcoholism. Those are really touching amid all that. We're all cracking up. Oh, and by the way, you've made my partner and I think like we're incredibly funny. We should write our own show because we're really good. But one thing I'm really interested to hear about is the fight scenes. Like, whoa, they're like intense and mean. And so I like, how did you come up with those? They have to be real life because they're too mean to not be real, right?
I mean, we just think what would be funny to really watch and hear and pretend to do. I mean, it is cathartic to get the, silly yell at somebody like that.
I think there's a line in the new season where my character says, I can't remember, Rob's pulling me up about something, my character says, I would never behave out in the real world the way I behave at home. And I think that's how we want the rows within the show to feel and to be like those awful, terrible things that you can only say to the people you love the most. Yeah. I think that the hardest thing for us is, like you only have a certain amount of time, and it's making those rows go from sometimes like love into just explosion. And they're brilliant fun to watch, but they're hard enough to write. Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks for a great show. We've binge watched it 3 times, all the way through, all the seasons.
Thank you.
Hi there. A couple of interviews you've talked about how the series could have just kept going. So I'm curious, when ending the series, did you decide on a tone or a scenario and work backwards from there, or did it just come to a natural conclusion?
Oh, a little smarty pants alert. Yeah, I mean, we did know how we wanted it to end. So that's a good question. So I guess the answer to that really could just be yes.
But in order to get to that point, the slog was that we had a lot of things we had to sort of touch upon along the way. And I can't really explain it too much without giving stuff away, but we had to get them both in a certain kind of state of mind for our ending to work. So, you know, we did know how we wanted it to end, but then we had to go and figure out how to get there.
But we had a sort of like tonal relationship feel that we really wanted for this fourth season. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello. I'm an English person who lives in New York now, so when you guys came out and talked about the different tonal aspects of playing to different audiences, that really hit for me. And I noticed in the show, particularly now that I live here, that there's a lot of jokes that are funny, but they're elevated if you know the specific references. Like I was the only person in the back laughing about Greg's, because that's very specific for English. And because you have a dual distribution, I was wondering to what extent you guys, because you have both sides of the Atlantic in your writing duo, how much you think about that specificity and how funny that makes that for one side versus appealing to both sides.
I mean, the Greg's example is pretty good, right? So that's funny enough for people in the UK that we're like, I don't give a shit if American people don't like it. So a joke, we do think about, though, will this land in both places? And if it's funny enough in one that it's worth it for us, then we'll do it. And Greg's, how do you explain Greg's? It's like, it's just a fun, safe place to just get a nice warm sausage roll. You're not gonna take a date there, but it's just Greg's, you know?
Thanks very much.
That's exactly the right answer.
Hi, I love you guys, and the show's great.
Thank you.
What I'd like to know is, what I've heard here is you met on Twitter and you started writing, and then you have a hit show. Well, how did you get from here to there? How did you wind up developing the idea for the show? How'd you sell the idea? How'd you get a pilot made? How did it happen from being Twitter buddies?
I mean, the basic thing is I was offered a pilot script from the BBC. And I said, wow, this is amazing. Me, American moron, gets to write a pilot for the BBC. I want it to be good, so why don't I ask Sharon Horgan if she'll write it with me? So then we wrote it together.
Wait a sec, so the BBC came to you and said, write a script for us?
No, my management went to the BBC and was like, why don't you give him a deal to write it? You don't have to pay it, you pay him a nickel. But he'll get to tell people he wrote, just please. And then they did. And so then I asked Sarah, do you want to write it with me? We gave it to the BBC, and they were like, this is really lovely, isn't it? We don't want to do it. And so then Amazon said, yeah, sure, we'll do it. And so then, right? You know? And
that's
then,
it.
Yeah, and
but
then
I mean, there was various steps along the way. Also, he got that script deal from the BBC because he sold out the Soho Theatre in seconds, and of course the BBC wanted some of that. So it wasn't. It was nice that they gave it to you, but there was that. There was like a buzz around him. But you know, so we got the BBC thing that didn't get picked up. Went to Channel 4. They gave us a pilot script. They, you know, then we had to write another one. Then that wasn't good enough. We had to combine them. Then they were like, okay, you can make a pilot. And then it was like, okay, eventually. I mean, this is like at least a year down the road from when we wrote the first script, possibly longer, that they committed to a series. So, I mean, it was a process of years.
You'll hear television writers being like, and then the network sent these notes, and we had and so, but in fact, the network was like, hey, what if you showed them get to know each other? Because our first idea was to just start in the middle.
Yeah.
Like there wouldn't, and like people really, the first series was so much fun, and people really enjoyed it, watching them get to know each other. I mean, it would be crazy to imagine Catastrophe without that. Not our idea.
Yeah. Well, we did, but it was like a 5-minute montage.
But
kind of
you
thing.
basically started at season 2, essentially?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
Our season 2 pretty much starts the way our first script we ever wrote.
That's a very constructive note.
Yeah.
I know,
Wow.
right?
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah.
Listen.
Listen
to notes.
Pay attention.
Okay.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
I have 2 unrelated questions. The first one is I've always noticed the lack of dialogue with Frankie once he got speaking or a more vocal age. And I was wondering if that
Until tonight, though, right?
Yeah, 2 lines.
Yes, he had more lines tonight, and that was exciting for him, I imagine. But I was wondering if that was a technical decision. You said that you have to cut a lot of stuff anyway, and would communication with a child not lend itself to the rest of the adult sort of nature of the show? Or is it because the material with kids wouldn't be funny? Like, I was just wondering where that decision.
If you've ever written an animal into your script, and then you hire an animal that has no skills, and you realize how frustrating that is, that's approximately what it's like to work with a child. And so we just didn't want to do
I would say
that.
it's almost like 2 wings of a bird, right? like it's hard to work with kids and animals, and we also didn't really want to have the
that's
cutesy.
true.
Like, how many shows are there where you can watch a kid be like, "Bagoo," like, go watch that show.
It wasn't necessarily about them, how they parent or anything like that. It was about how they are with each other once they have kids. So it wasn't really necessary for us anyway.
Right. No, okay.
Thank God.
And then the second entirely unrelated question is about Sharon's fashion. I love it. And I was wondering.
Oh my God, don't give me a round of applause
I mixed
for it.
polka dots and stripes because I thought you might do that. So. Was just wondering if that is, I love your suit and your shoes tonight, but is that you in real life and on the screen, or do you, what's the wardrobe?
Well, I spend way too long thinking about the costumes for the Sharon character in the show. When we did the pilot, we had an amazing stylist, costume designer, Rosa Diaz, and she set a certain look, and then we lost her. I can't remember why, but she couldn't do the series, and I just couldn't bear to lose that. That look that she had. And also people responded to it really well. So you give me any kind of praise, I'm like, give me some more. So I just worked really closely with the designer of all the shows, and some of it's mine and some of it's just vintagey stuff and some of it's costume, and yeah, it's just a mixture.
Well, it's really great. Thank you so much to both of you.
We're out of time. I know. I don't want to be their jailer. There's one final question that I was just going to say from Twitter, because it's a nice way to end it, which is, I know. It's like the surest way to make yourself unpopular. Michelle Sons at Twitter said, "Will you guys be collaborating again someday?" And I just thought that was a lovely way to go out. I hope so.
Yeah, with nothing in the hopper at the moment, but it would be wonderful to do.
Yeah,
So.
Okay, but there's nothing going on.
Not right
nothing
now.
right now. I mean, we even when we were making the show, we would have ideas about other things. But it was a really fun, lovely writing partnership. So, yes, I hope so.
I hope so too. All right, you guys were great. You were, go to sleep. You're amazing. Oh my God, so lovely.